Welcome to Framework, the podcast that makes the NIST cybersecurity framework practical, engaging, and accessible. Whether you're a cybersecurity professional, business leader, or simply curious about how organizations defend against cyber threats, this series is for you. This podcast is inspired by a comprehensive guide to the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, a best-selling resource written by cybersecurity expert Dr. Jason Edwards and trusted by professionals worldwide. In each episode, we'll leverage a few insights from Jason's extensive book to dive deep into CSF 2.0, unpacking every function, category, and subcategory with real-world applications you can immediately use. If you're enjoying this episode and want to learn more, head over to cyberauthor.me to grab your copy of the book and access additional resources to enhance your cybersecurity journey. You can also visit baremetalcyber.com, where over 2 million people last year explored expert insights, articles, and practical tools across a wide range of cybersecurity topics. PR.AA-05, Enforcing Access Control Policies. PR.AA-05 ensures that organizations establish and enforce structured access control policies to regulate user permissions, prevent unauthorized access, and protect sensitive data and critical systems from security threats. This subcategory belongs to the Protect function within the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, version 2.0, emphasizing that strong access control mechanisms must be implemented to limit system access based on user roles, security requirements, and business needs. Without proper enforcement of access control policies, organizations risk data breaches, privilege misuse, insider threats, and unauthorized access to confidential or high-risk systems. By enforcing access control policies, organizations ensure that only authorized users and approved devices can access specific systems, applications, and data. A structured access control framework enables organizations to implement least privilege principles, enforce multi-factor authentication, MFA, and dynamically adjust access rights based on real-time security risks. Organizations that adopt role-based access control, RBAC, enforce attribute-based access control, ABAC, and integrate AI-driven access monitoring improve their ability to prevent privilege escalation attacks, minimize exposure to unauthorized access attempts, and enhance enterprise security resilience. Multiple stakeholders play a role in enforcing access control policies. Identity and access management, IAM teams, and security administrators are responsible for defining access control policies, configuring access management tools, and continuously monitoring access rights for anomalies. Compliance officers and risk management teams ensure that access control enforcement aligns with regulatory requirements, security frameworks, and enterprise cybersecurity governance. Business unit leaders and IT asset owners play a critical role in determining access control requirements, reviewing user permissions, and ensuring access rights reflect organizational security policies. Access control enforcement is implemented through structured access provisioning models, continuous access review processes, and real-time access anomaly detection. This includes enforcing just-in-time privileged access for high-risk accounts, requiring additional authentication for sensitive data access, and using AI-driven analytics to detect unauthorized access attempts. Organizations that fail to implement structured access control policies risk data leakage, system compromise, and increased exposure to internal and external cybersecurity threats. Several key terms define access control policy enforcement and its role in cybersecurity governance. Role-based access control, RBAC, ensures that organizations restrict access based on predefined job roles, limiting users to only the permissions necessary for their work. Attribute-based access control, ABAC, ensures that organizations define access permissions based on user attributes such as department, geographic location, device type, or risk level for dynamic access control. Least privilege enforcement ensures that organizations grant users only the minimum access required to perform their job duties, reducing the risk of privilege abuse. Privileged access management, PAM, ensures that organizations implement strict controls over high-risk accounts, such as system administrators and executives. to prevent misuse and unauthorized privilege escalation. Access certification reviews ensure that organizations conduct periodic evaluations of user access rights, removing unnecessary permissions and preventing unauthorized access to critical assets. Challenges in enforcing access control policies often lead to excessive user permissions, unauthorized access incidents, and ineffective access management workflows. One common issue is failure to regularly review and update access permissions, where organizations grant access based on initial job roles, but do not adjust or revoke permissions when roles change, leading to privilege creep. Another issue is lack of automation in access control enforcement, where organizations manually assign and manage access rights, increasing the risk of human error and security misconfigurations. Some organizations mistakenly believe that access control enforcement is a one-time implementation, without recognizing that continuous monitoring, periodic access certification, and dynamic risk-based adjustments are necessary for maintaining long-term security. When organizations implement structured access control enforcement frameworks, they enhance security visibility, reduce the risk of unauthorized access, and ensure access policies remain aligned with business and security objectives. A structured access control policy enforcement model ensures that cybersecurity teams monitor access risks proactively, business leadership aligns access governance with enterprise security goals, and security teams integrate access policy adjustments into ongoing cybersecurity governance initiatives. Organizations that adopt automated access management solutions, enforce risk-adaptive access control models, and integrate continuous access certification processes develop a comprehensive access control enforcement strategy that strengthens resilience against unauthorized access threats. Organizations that fail to enforce access control policies face significant security, operational, and compliance risks. Without proper enforcement, businesses risk unauthorized access to sensitive systems, increased exposure to insider threats, and a higher likelihood of privilege misuse, leading to security breaches. A common issue is excessive access rights, where organizations grant broad permissions to users without limiting access based on job roles or security requirements, increasing the risk of data exposure and privilege escalation. Another major challenge is lack of continuous monitoring, where organizations fail to track user activity and access anomalies, allowing unauthorized access attempts to go undetected. By implementing structured access control enforcement, organizations ensure that user access remains restricted to appropriate roles, authentication mechanisms adapt to changing security risks, and unauthorized access attempts are identified and mitigated in real time. A well-defined access control framework prevents privilege abuse, strengthens compliance with security mandates, and improves access visibility across enterprise systems. Organizations that deploy automated access provisioning solutions, enforce continuous access monitoring, and integrate risk-based access decision models improve their ability to detect unauthorized access, mitigate insider threats, and dynamically adjust access policies to evolving security risks. At the partial tier, organizations lack structured access control enforcement, leading to manual, inconsistent, and error-prone access provisioning processes. Access rights are assigned based on informal approvals, with no centralized access control governance or enforcement of least privilege principles. A small business at this level may allow employees to retain access to sensitive data even after switching roles, creating security risks due to unreviewed permissions. At the risk-informed tier, organizations begin to establish formal access control enforcement mechanisms, ensuring that access permissions are assigned based on business needs and security policies. However, enforcement efforts may still be inconsistent, with periodic access reviews but limited automation in access monitoring and anomaly detection. A mid-sized healthcare provider at this level may conduct access certification reviews annually, but fail to implement real-time access risk analysis, leaving gaps in detecting unauthorized system access. At the repeatable tier, organizations implement a fully structured access control enforcement framework, ensuring that access policies are consistently applied, reviewed, and updated across enterprise environments. Access governance is formalized, with leadership actively involved in access policy oversight, enforcement of least privileged principles, and real-time monitoring of access events. A multinational financial institution at this stage may enforce role-based access control, RBAC, with automated provisioning and continuous access audits, ensuring compliance with financial regulations and security best practices. At the adaptive tier, organizations employ AI-driven access risk analysis, continuous behavioral access monitoring, and zero-trust access models to dynamically assess access risks and refine access control policies in real time. Access security is fully integrated into enterprise cybersecurity governance, ensuring that organizations detect and mitigate access-based threats before they can be exploited. A global cloud service provider at this level may use machine learning algorithms to analyze access patterns, identify suspicious privilege escalations, and enforce just-in-time access control for high-risk accounts. Enforcing access control policies aligns with multiple controls in the National Institute of Standards and Technology Special Publication 800-53, ensuring that organizations implement structured access management models and proactive access risk mitigation strategies. One key control is AC-3, access enforcement, which requires organizations to establish and enforce access control policies that restrict access to authorized users based on security requirements. A multinational technology firm implementing this control may enforce multi-layered access restrictions across cloud and on-premise environments, preventing unauthorized access through identity-based access controls. Another key control is AC-5, separation of duties, which mandates that organizations segregate access permissions based on business roles to prevent conflicts of interest, insider threats, and privilege abuse. A government agency implementing this control may require that financial transactions and system changes be approved by separate individuals to prevent fraud and unauthorized system modifications. Enforcing access control policies also aligns with AC-6, least privilege, which requires organizations to limit access rights to the minimum necessary for users to perform their job functions, reducing the risk of privilege misuse and unauthorized access. This control ensures that organizations regularly review and update access permissions, revoke unnecessary privileges, and prevent users from accumulating excessive access rights over time. A multinational retail corporation implementing this control may use automated access provisioning to grant temporary permissions based on specific job tasks, ensuring that employees do not retain access beyond what is required. These controls can be adapted based on organizational size, industry, and cybersecurity maturity. A small business may implement basic access control measures, ensuring that employees have unique user accounts with strong passwords and multi-factor authentication, MFA, for administrative access. A large enterprise may deploy AI-driven access governance, dynamic access control enforcement, and zero-trust security models to ensure that all access requests are continuously validated and restricted based on real-time risk assessments. Organizations in highly regulated industries such as banking, healthcare, and government contracting may require legally mandated access control reviews, strict privilege management policies, and compliance-driven access governance audits to ensure that security policies align with regulatory standards. Auditors assess an organization's ability to enforce access control policies by reviewing whether structured, documented, and continuously enforced access governance frameworks are in place. They evaluate whether organizations implement structured access validation models, enforce real-time access monitoring policies, and integrate predictive access analytics into enterprise-wide cybersecurity governance strategies. If an organization fails to enforce access control policies effectively, auditors may issue findings highlighting gaps in access enforcement, weak alignment between access control processes and security policies, and failure to integrate structured access governance into cybersecurity frameworks. To verify compliance, auditors seek specific types of evidence. Access control logs and structured privilege management documentation demonstrate that organizations formally define and enforce access control security policies. Privileged access request logs and access anomaly detection reports provide insights into whether organizations proactively assess and mitigate access control security risks through structured monitoring frameworks. Automated access control validation reports and predictive access analytics show whether organizations effectively track, monitor, and enhance access security using real-world access patterns and dynamic enforcement mechanisms. A compliance success scenario could involve a global healthcare provider that undergoes an audit and provides evidence that access control enforcement strategies are fully integrated into enterprise cybersecurity governance, ensuring that access risks are continuously monitored, privilege assignments remain secure, and access policies are enforced consistently across the organization. Auditors confirm that access governance policies are systematically enforced, access monitoring mechanisms are dynamically adjusted based on risk exposure, and enterprise-wide cybersecurity governance frameworks align with structured access security requirements. In contrast, an organization that fails to implement structured access control frameworks, neglects dynamic access risk validation, or lacks formalized privilege management workflows may receive audit findings for poor access security, weak identity governance, and failure to align access enforcement strategies with regulatory compliance mandates. Organizations face multiple barriers in ensuring that access control enforcement strategies remain continuous and effective. One major challenge is lack of automation in access control enforcement, where organizations fail to implement real-time access management tools, leading to outdated or incomplete access policy. Another challenge is failure to align access control policies with evolving cyber threats, where organizations do not update access enforcement strategies based on new attack techniques, increasing exposure to privilege escalation risks. A final challenge is over-reliance on static access controls, where organizations fail to integrate AI-driven access risk detection, behavioral-based access validation, or adaptive access control models, limiting their ability to detect and prevent sophisticated access-based threats. Organizations can overcome these barriers by developing structured access control enforcement frameworks, ensuring that access validation strategies remain continuously optimized, and integrating real-time access control monitoring models into enterprise-wide cybersecurity governance strategies. Investing in automated access control platforms, predictive access risk analytics, and AI-driven access monitoring solutions ensures that organizations dynamically assess, monitor, and refine access enforcement strategies in real time. Standardizing access governance methodologies across departments, subsidiaries, and external business partners ensures that access security policies are consistently applied, reducing exposure to access-based security risks and strengthening enterprise-wide access control resilience. By embedding access control enforcement strategies into enterprise cybersecurity governance frameworks, organizations enhance access risk awareness, improve regulatory compliance, and ensure sustainable access validation processes across evolving cyber risk landscapes. That wraps up today's discussion on framework. Don't stop here. Head over to cyberauthor.me to explore more cybersecurity topics and discover a best-selling book covering NIST and other critical cyber frameworks. Please like, rate, and review this episode on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, remember that knowledge is power.